Yo, what's up, family? Today I'm interviewing Fonz Morris, who works as a lead product designer at Netflix, and he is focused on growth and conversion. I've been following Fonz for a few years now, and one thing that I really admire about him is that he breaks information down in a really simple way. He doesn't talk like a designer who's speaking to other designers. He's talking like he talks like a human speaking to other humans who are trying to educate themselves on different aspects of design. And the reason that I wanted to talk to Fonz is because of a few different things that I think you all might find interesting. First, I want to introduce you guys to the area of growth, which is a space that a lot of people don't know about within the product design space. There are a lot of different pathways that you can take nowadays, but I think that a lot of people need more exposure to those different areas. And secondly, Fonz is a self-taught designer who started out as an entrepreneur early in his career, owning a design agency, and he advocates for going the self-taught route. So we'll dig into that a little bit while learning about his story. So with that, Fonz, you want to introduce yourself to the
Yeah,
people and tell them what you're all about?
yeah, for sure. I appreciate the intro. You gave a lot of it, honestly, like you said, keeping it simple. At Netflix now. I focus on conversion. I've been in conversion pretty much my whole life. If you think about it as being an entrepreneur, I've always been trying to figure out, how do I get this person to subscribe for this email? How do I get them to purchase this item? How do I get them to visit this website? How do I get them to do anything? And that's where the conversion comes into play. And just as my career has grown, I've just been responsible for converting bigger and bigger markets with larger users in it, i.e. the Netflix customers, which are about in the mid 200 millions right now, like around 225, I think we're at or something. So what I'm focused on is, how do we keep those users happy, which would be retention, or we're always trying to figure out how to get new customers. So that's acquisition. And we're focused on that globally. So I really like that at Netflix. I get the chance to be an inclusive designer, as opposed to just, I only work on UCAN, which is the United States and Canada. I get to work on UCAN, APAC, Europe, Asia, everywhere. And that's allowed me to grow as a designer, and I love it. So that's kind of like, I kind of gave a little bit of an inkling into what growth is. And if you think of all of these companies, these startups that are venture backed, they need to go to the moon. So how do they get there? Like, what does going to the moon mean? And they need people to focus on that, not just focus on the visual or the UX. They need people to focus on the strategy. And that's another lane of design. And that's where I am now, working with my PMs and my other cross-functional partners to build these products, as opposed to earlier in my career where I just was trying to create the best looking artifact I can think of and get people to tell me that it looks good. So I
Mhm.
started in graphic design, but being an entrepreneur and going in and out of corporate America back and forth is how I've grown to now want to be a growth designer, because I am interested in the success of the company, as opposed to just maybe the UI or the UX of a specific product or brand.
Got you. And for somebody who's not familiar with growth, like what's a simple way to explain that, and how is it different from, just everyday product design?
Growth goes under product design. Product design is an umbrella, is what people
Mhm.
should look at, as opposed to just one specific vertical. It's an umbrella, and there's a bunch of different things under it. UX research goes under that. Content design goes under that. UI, prototyping,
Mhm.
even UI engineering goes under that. There's a lot that goes under product design. So growth is the team that's really focused on success. Like I said, that metric, hitting those metrics that's going to make this company successful. Sometimes your metrics may be revenue. Sometimes your metrics may be user signups. Maybe your revenue may be decreasing a bounce rate because people are leaving so quickly from a product. It's trying to figure out, how do you convert that user to do whatever you want them to do. And growth is trying to grow the company. It's kind of simple in it's simple in its title, but it's complicated in all the things that make up growth. But it's really focused on, how do we grow Netflix from 220 million to 500 million? How do you grow a startup that may be just launching to now having their first 1,000 customers or their first 5,000 or million customers, the scale of the growth will change based on the company, but it's all about growing, whether it's a user base or revenue or something of that nature. It's very metrics focused as opposed to just what some people think design and think just visual. And because that's how a lot of people were introduced into it. But design has grown and it's way more complicated and it's a lot of nuances and there are a lot more verticals. So growth is the team that's really focused on growing a company as opposed to just maybe what the UX or the UI could be. I worry about that as well, but making sure that the UI and the UX is good to tie into a metric today.
So what does that look like on a daily basis for you? Like, what are you doing? You know, if you're not doing UI, UX on a daily basis, like what is it that you focus on?
Well, so the thing about my schedule is it's mixed up of I'm doing UI and I'm doing UX, but to be honest with everybody, that's maybe 20% of it. There's a huge part of strategy. There's a ton of communication. There's a ton of research on my own. I'm in so many meetings because it takes so many different people together to keep Netflix running that I have to communicate with these people and we have to come up with these strategies and we have to make sure everybody has the context and we have to think of all of these edge cases and happy paths and error cases and things like that. So how do you do that? It's by meeting with your team and it's by reading over the hundreds of memos that we have or creating your own memo. So what does my day look like? It's usually in the morning, I'm jumping on my own, catching up on some stuff that I might not have finished the night before, or I'm getting my mind right for the meetings I have coming up. If I have, depending on the meeting, I might be presenting. So I need to make sure that I have whatever I'm presenting ready to go and any notes. Or if I have some meetings coming up and I want to do some pre-reads, maybe I'll check over some of those memos, or I'll send some early information to the people that I'm meeting with so that they'll have more context on what's going on. A lot of context switching because my 10 o'clock may be a different topic than my 10:30, which may be different than my 11, which is different than my 11:30, squeezing in time for lunch. So very, very busy schedule, but I will be honest and say I'm so proud to have a schedule that's this busy in 2022. When you think of where we are as a society and looms of a recession and different companies laying off, shout out to all of the people that got laid off. If there's any way I can help you, reach out to me. When you are very mindful and you think about what's going on, even though I know some people say, man, how do you find time to do this? I'm proud to have to find time to do that.
For sure. No, I feel that. And, for folks who are just hearing about growth, like how were you exposed to it? Like, where did you learn that from? Did you learn from a mentor, or did you see a title that was out there? Like, how'd you get started?
Entrepreneurship. Like I said, I mean, if you think about entrepreneurship is growth, you want to grow the company and you're responsible for it usually when you think of versus a bigger company that might have a growth team, it might have a marketing team, it might have all of this stuff. When you're a one-man show, one-woman show, or it's just a small team, you and your co-founder, you're focused on how do you grow that company. Nobody just called it growth. Most of the time, they just said it was marketing maybe, and you want to be successful, where if you dig a little deeper, it's actually you want to grow the company. And now, how are you going to grow the company? What ways do you want to grow the company? Why do you want to grow the company? Is that the best way to grow the company? So all of those are questions that all of the entrepreneurs on the call or founders are probably asking right now. So I would say I got introduced into growth by just being an entrepreneur.
Got you. And for those who are, hearing about this and they're like, oh, that kind of piqued my interest. If they're in because a lot of people who follow this channel, they're in other industries and they're trying to transition into design, or they're in college, just learning about this and they're trying to create a path for themselves. Are there certain careers that you think are very similar to growth, besides entrepreneurship, where they could kind of transfer those skills into this new field?
I mean, all industries are trying to grow. every business is trying to grow unless the business is trying to go bankrupt. You know what I mean? So whatever industry you're in, there's somebody at your job or in your industry that's focused on how do we grow this company? How do we grow this idea? How do we grow this community? Whatever it is, right? So you need to think about whatever industry you're in. Like, for example, I speak to the attendants at my daughter's school. I'm very close with the team that's responsible for enrollment, right? Because I give them input from how I handle product at Netflix in ways that they can use at the school. I give them tactics of, hey, are you doing retargeting with your emails? Are you following up? Are you thinking about trying to speak to this community? Are you thinking about sending information this way and that way? And because they're from an education background, they're not looking at it from the way I am. So that's an easy way of how I'm able to give ideas to somebody in education. I also have some friends that are in cooking, and I give them suggestions. I have friends that are trying to launch product lines, or I have any startup that I'm thinking of. Everybody's trying to grow. Everybody's trying to figure out, how do you come up with that strategy? So spend some time thinking about that. Like, find your industry or find another industry that you're passionate about. Start looking for holes in there or ways that you can improve some things, and start coming up with some of those ideas. And when you come up with some ideas that you think are strong enough, if you have anybody in that field, share that idea and see what they say. You don't know where it may go. You don't know who they may know. You don't know what's next. But if you really want to get started in the industry, I say get started, meaning do some research, start talking to other people that's in that space, and start trying to solve the problems that the people that are in that space are solving. And then when you feel like you may have a solution, reach out to the community and share it. I'm sure you'll be surprised with how much support you get.
Got you. And you know, one thing that I love is that you said that what you do at Netflix kind of transfers over to, you know, you helping your daughter at her school, right? And I see that design, like the things that you learn, it transfers into every aspect of life, right? And that's the beautiful part
It's a
about
lifestyle. Like, design for me is a lifestyle. It's not a job.
Yeah. And what is it that's most challenging about the growth space? So what do you find challenging, and what kind of lights you up working through those
problems? I mean, the problem is at Netflix right now, we're trying to figure out how to stop 100 million people from sharing their password. That's a massive number of people, first of all, and that's all over the planet. So that's not just United States. So that's, how do you convert or get 100 million people to stop a habit that they've been doing for 20 plus years? That's a big problem. I'm excited about solving big problems because, like I said, I'm still very humble and mindful. So I still think of when I was just trying to get started in design years and years ago and hoping somebody would just let me do their logo, to think fast forward to now, I'm one of the people responsible for trying to help one of the most influential tech companies stay ahead of the game. So it's like, that is what gets me excited. My ability to hang in there, and patience and dedication to my career, and then now to be where I am now, is really what puts the gas in my tank every day, to be honest with you, man, because I feel like all the hard work has paid off. And then when you think of that, if we can solve that 100 million household problem, that translates into billions of dollars. I don't really know too many designers that can say that they're actually working on products that could end up having billions of dollars in results if you're successful at it. So it's a huge, massive problem that has a ton of impact if we solve it correctly. And if I'm going to be solving problems, I might as well be solving those. No diss to small problems, because I started with them, you know what I mean? But I'm not at the beginning of my career anymore. Those same kind of problems are not as interesting to me as this scale of problem that I'm solving at Netflix. So over time, it makes sense that I'm working on these type of projects. I don't know if when I first started my career, I was ready for this, or I had enough experience, or I understood all the nuances that it would take to be successful at this level. That's why the experience, putting one step in front of the other, is so important, so that life is an experience. And by the time you do get some years under your belt, you're ready to solve those problems that are at that level when you get there, as opposed to if you go too fast, it's like you don't really have experience to solve this. So
Mm-hmm.
probably gonna have to go back and get that experience. So everybody be patient with yourself, take the time, figure out what kind of things you're interested in, and put that dedication towards that, and just stay passionate about it though. Like if you don't have the passion, it's going to be tricky for you to hang in there as long as it takes to really be successful.
That's deep. That's deep, Fonz. I think like anytime I have one-on-one conversations with people, that's one thing that I always try to like remind them about is that you could find your passion within the design space. You know, whatever it is, if you're into the environment, if you're into entertainment, like you could find a place for yourself, right? But how do you suggest somebody go about that early part of their career when there's all the self-doubt, all the imposter syndrome? You know, a lot of people feel overwhelmed with
Mm-hmm.
so much information out there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you could just take us back to the beginning, did you feel any of those feelings, and how did you do
Of
it?
course, it's all natural, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's
Mm-hmm.
experience, it's life. Yes, all of that, all of that. When I'm giving my talks, I have a slide that shows a bunch of scribbly lines on the left and a straight line like this on the right. And I tell people, most people think that your life goes like this, or you want your life to go like that, or that's how your hero's life went. And that's not true. It's most likely this squiggly thing because life is organic and you don't know what it is. You can't control everything. Who knows what's going to happen sometimes? But if you stay focused and stay positive and patient, eventually you'll come out on the other side. But you're going to have so much more to tell because you went through all of these ups and downs. And with that, I'm saying I would want people who are early in their career to not feel as if you have to put the pedal to the metal. That's not what you need to do early in your career. You need to come to the understanding that you want to be a designer, you want to be in design, and you are willing to do whatever it's going to take to get that done. That may mean long hours, that may mean working on the weekends, that may mean 2 jobs, that may mean going back to school, that may mean investing thousands of dollars in new equipment. Who knows? But if you're not willing to dedicate and say to yourself, look in the mirror and say you're willing to do that, it's going to be a really rough path for you because it's going to take all of that, right? Now, all of that doesn't have to happen on day one, even in 1 year, but you need that kind of grounding, foundational understanding of, I want to do this, here's why I want to do this, and here's what I think success for me would look like if I do this. That kind of core understanding will really help you prevent doing things like taking any design job that you could ever take. If that job's not going to really help you get to where you want to go, even though I know you need a job, and I'm not telling anybody to turn down jobs, but there is a such thing as the wrong job. There is a such thing as a lateral move in your career. You want to avoid those if you can. So by having that understanding with yourself, you know, one day I want to be a designer at Netflix. Okay, that's a great starting point. Now let's figure out, what does that path actually look like? What do you want to do at Netflix? Netflix is a huge company. You can't just say you want to be a designer at Netflix. I would prefer you have a better understanding of, you want to work with the UI that people interact with. And why do you want to work with that UI? Is it because billions of eyes are on it? Or is it because you just like entertainment and you like the streaming space? So understanding that type of stuff will really help you carve the path, and it'll help you understand, these are the people I may be needing to talk to. These are the kind of organizations I may need to become affiliated with, because you're trying to connect the dots to get somewhere, right? So these dots are the little bit of understandings that you have. And then in between the dots is the path. That's the life that you're going to live to connect these dots. So I think it's about doing that, man, going back to square one and really understanding what you want out of your career and trying to figure out what that plan could be and sharing that plan and talking to your community. It's not about putting on blinders and figuring this out in the dark by yourself. It's about being excited about this and finding brothers like you and sisters and anybody that will listen to you and say, hey, this is what I want to do, and getting feedback and using that feedback to grow and to constantly build the life that you want for yourself. That's what I'm doing every day. I still have so much more life to live. I spend so much time reading books, writing in my journal, like putting in the time, you know what I mean? Like all the advice I give people, I still do because I'm nowhere near finished. I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah, I do too. I've been doing this for 8 years, but every day it feels like a new beginning, a new chapter. Right? For somebody who is struggling to find that self-awareness, like coming out of college with the pandemic and this recession, like it's a lot to take in, right? But how do you suggest for somebody to gain self-awareness about where they want to go when it feels like everything is kind of closing in at times?
I think you always know what you like and what you're interested in, and start there. That's fun. And that might not pan out for you, but at least you went through that space, you know? A person could get out of college and say, I like sports. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, let's try to figure out what part of sports do you like? Do you like watching sports? Because if you like watching sports, that's different than you like playing sports. Watching sports means you might not even need to be affiliated with any team. You might need to be affiliated with an organization like NBC or ESPN. So just even that, you see how quickly I was able to split people's lives, two completely different lives. Somebody who said that they like sports, you could work in sports and work for the Lakers and work as a coach or whatever you want to do, or you can work in ESPN and now you work and you get to see the Lakers, you get to see the Bucks, you get to see the Nets, you get to see everything else because your job was not just focused on the physical sport, it was focused on the communications of getting the sport out there. So these type of, if it was anything I would tell people to do is just take the time. It's not easy, whether you want to go for walks, whether you want to look, whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, just have these true early fundamental questions on what does success look like for me? Put on your happy hat, put on your success hat. Do it when you're in a good mood. Like, what do you want to be doing in 5 years? What do you want to be doing in 10 years? And kind of work backwards from that and be gentle with yourself. It's not easy. It does not happen overnight, but at least having that little bit of, I keep using the word understanding because you need that. And a lot of people don't have that understanding and they don't have that clarity of the basics of, they'll just say, I like sports and that's it. Yep. I need a little more from you. If you got out of school and you like, I like law. Okay, you want to be a real estate lawyer or you want to be district attorney? And that's your homework. You have your own homework that you have to do. You can't expect somebody else to give you all the answers. And that's what I want them to do. I want you to do that homework with yourself. I like fashion. Okay, you want to be a buyer for a fashion house or you want to create your own clothing line like Virgil, or you want to build your own website like The Real or eBay. So anytime somebody gives me a little bit of information, I got like 30 questions for you.
Exactly. Yep.
And you need to answer those 30 questions, and those 30 answers will help you build the path to wherever you want to go.
That's gold right there, Fonz.
Ask me, anybody tell me something. You tell me you like animals. You want to be a veterinarian, or you want to be a dog seller, or you want to be you want to train, you want to be Caesar Milan. What you want to do. And I think that's the fun part, bro. It's the getting people excited about life, getting them inspired. Yes, life is daunting. Life is draining. We just got out of a pandemic. We're seeing high violence, all-time violence. We're seeing the Supreme Court changing things. And so life is not easy. I understand that part. And that's why we got to try to find those little silver linings wherever we can. And it comes from starting with yourself and really being honest with who you are, what you're interested into, what you want your impact to be on earth, and now figuring out how do you actually live that dream.
Exactly. And I find, like, I go through challenges, and I'm sure you do too, Fonz, but those challenges are the things that make life exciting. Like, as daunting as it is, it's something that pushes you forward, right?
Now the challenges is there, man. Like, I gotta be honest. I had a meeting at work 2 weeks ago that it wasn't the best meeting. And I say that though, because once I got out the meeting, I started thinking to myself, what could I have changed? What could I have done better? How can I grow from this? As opposed to, yes, I licked my wounds for like a little bit, but you know what? I got past that and I said, how can I grow from this? And how can I never be in this kind of situation again? What do I need to do different to avoid from being in that spot? And I'm already seeing myself showing up, applying that. If I didn't go through that meeting, not that I wouldn't have done this and these improvements, but maybe I wouldn't have tried to kick them in at the time I'm kicking them in now, because I just had the meeting 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, well, I don't want that kind of situation no more. So let me go ahead and make a change. Let me be a part of that change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's new wisdom that comes from those challenges, right?
There you go, brother. I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. Now I also want to get some of your thoughts real quick on going the self-taught route. Because that's something that's controversial. You know, some people don't have the resources to go to college nowadays. And they struggle with that fact that I've had conversations with people who are going through that situation. But why is that something that you embrace, and what are the benefits of taking that path?
Control. You have the control. You're not letting whatever financial or societal situation you've been put in control your destiny. You know, if you do have the money to go to design school, go. I'm not gonna tell you don't go. If you got money to pay to go to a design boot camp, go. If you can get into an internship, go. Do whatever you gotta do, you know what I mean? But don't be limited, is really what I'm trying to say. I went to school for computer science. I didn't go to school for design. But when I was graduating from college, luckily my university opened up a computer lab that was focused on multimedia. And I was like, I don't know if I really want to be an engineer that much. I really do like design. Let me put some time into this. And I was in the computer lab every single day for 2 years. And I taught myself everything I needed to learn to be able to get this company going. So that was my path. That's what worked for me, right? If I would have said, well, I didn't go to design school, I can't be a designer, that would have been a sad and untrue story where I want people to do what they can do, right? And if you can't go to design school, you can get on YouTube, you can download Figma, it's free. You can start sketching on paper, that's free. You can find ways, if you really want, to truly have a career in design. And that's what I want people to focus more on. It's the fact that they're going to do whatever it takes to achieve that goal, and they're not going to let a specific situation stop them. And that's my story. I didn't let not going to design school or anything, or not having a designer mentor at that moment. That's why I'm a design mentor now. So I can help all of the young Fonzes that was where I am, where I was then, now, and I can give them this type of support that they need, because when I was trying to figure it out, I just was doing whatever I had to do. So self-taught to me, it just gives you that control to focus on what you want to focus on, as opposed to you got to go to a design school and learn a lot of information that might not be relevant for the path that you want to go to. So why not spend that little bit of time self-learning and getting to the point where you're like, I'm maxed out on what I can do right now. I need to go to design school to go to the next level. To just say, I'm going to go to design school and hope a career manifests after that. You can do that, but I just don't think that's the only way.
And how do you suggest people go about the self-taught path? Like, is there a certain, like what's the starting point? Because I think that's where people get lost.
Research. Like, I think research, man, like I'm a massive researcher. Like I'm an honorary UX researcher at Netflix. I'm an honorary content designer at Netflix, because I care so much about my craft and my career that I put that time into learning and studying. You know, like I spend my weekends honestly reading. I spend my nighttime watching specific videos on YouTube. I'm taking the AI for Everybody course at Coursera, because I want to do an education platform that I think could use AI, and I don't want to run to an AI team without having done my own research and understanding what's going on. Because you know what? I might not even need AI for this, and I might just be putting buzzwords together. So you got to invest that time into research. Like I tell some people in some of my public speaking events that I've done, I tell people just take out your phone and look at all the apps on your phone. All of those are individual companies that have specific products. Why is that app on your phone? Why do you use TikTok? What about TikTok that you like? Do you like the content creation side, or do you actually like using the app? Would you want to work at TikTok? Maybe. Let's go to TikTok's jobs and see what they're hiring for. Any of this stuff standing out to you? Why is it standing out to you? Because this, okay, cool. Well, now we got a starting point. You would want to work in tech, or maybe you want to, and if you want to work at TikTok, maybe you want to work at Meta, or maybe you want to work at another social media platform. So you start opening up all of these doors, not to confuse you, but to let you show that you have options, but you're coming from the right spot from the beginning, like the intent. And that's why I tell people, look at the apps that's on your phone because you downloaded them and you use them. Think about the app you use the most. Like if you use Gmail the most, do you want to work at Google? Or do you just like communication? Do you like just sending emails? So then would you want to work at Apple on iMessage? Would you want to work at WhatsApp? Would you want to work at Signal? So you start to see these things opening up when you start really asking these fundamental questions. So I would say, take out your phone, look at some of the companies that's on there, ask yourself why you like them, or if you don't want to go on your phone, just look in your life and see. You wear Nikes all day. Well, would you want to work at Nike? You got a Sony TV. You got a BMW bike. Like, what would you like? What are you attracted to? What are you excited about in life? And how could you work in that industry? I feel like that's the most lofty type of information to give somebody, but that's some of the best information that I could give you, man. Because if you start there, you're starting from a place of interest. And as opposed to me just telling you, well, just become an engineer, duh, everybody's making money in engineering. It's like, well, I don't want to be an engineer.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we don't pay attention to our own interests. We're just trying to tap into what we see success as.
That's it, brother. Get rich quick. Or you watching what the next man is doing. And that's cool because you got to learn from your family and your community and stuff. But you can't just say, well, I want to do what he's doing, because you're looking at where this person is currently. What about everything it took to get there? Are you willing to do everything that that person did to get where they are? So instead of just focusing on that, what the next man is doing or the next woman is doing or their successes or their riches, you come to your own definition of what your interests are, what your passions are, what impact you want to have, what does success look like to you, what industries are you interested in. These are way better starting points to at least help you have a clearer path forward.
That's all solid, Fonz. How did New York influence your lens as a designer, and like what do you think being a Black designer means, and how has that impacted your career thus far?
Being from New York has a ton of impact. I tell people this as well, because I was going to school. I was going to the MoMA. I was going to the Brooklyn Children's Museum, Central Park, all of this type of stuff as a kid, and didn't even really understand the value of it at that moment because I'm just a kid on a school trip. But when you get older, you think about all the culture that I've been exposed to, and you think about the architecture that I've seen, and the fashion, and the diversity, and the transit system, and just the way New York is built and the way it has stayed the most important city on the planet. I realized that all of this stuff was inspiring me, and kind of like I was soaking it all up in and didn't really realize it until I started working in design and I was able to start really tapping into my creative side. I thought I wanted to be an architect when I was growing up as well. And I moved from architecture into engineering and from engineering into design. And I'm glad I went through that path, because I wouldn't want it to become an architect. That's not what I really, really wanted to do. And the same thing with engineering. That's not what I really, really wanted to do. But once I really got a taste of design and I started to see what success looked like, and the support that I got from my community, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I wasn't going to let anything stop me, even though I am most of the time the only Black designer, or there's only a couple of us on the org, or there's just me, or I'm the only person from product at an event. I'm kind of used to being that individual representative for the Black community in product and in design, but that's why I'm also trying to support more people getting into the space. So I don't always have to be that. I take pride in it, but I would be even more proud if I was not the only person at these events or on my team in certain organizations. But if I don't promote or support more people getting into the space, then how is this going to change? And that's why I said I do a lot of mentoring, and I helped launch a UX UI internship program at Netflix, as well as being on different other organizations that are focused on mentorship, just trying to give back and help more people come into design so that I don't have to be the only Black designer.
Exactly. I'm on the same path, Fonz.
You got to give back.
I feel like that's the only way to really change, right?
That's how you feel fulfillment. Like real fulfillment comes when you do stuff like that. Man, I get so many messages from people that I helped 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They're like, hey, Fonz, I just want to let you know, I just got a job doing this, and something you told me was it's just stuck with me, and I do it for the love. So every single accolade that I get is extremely personal, and I take all of them. I love all of them. You know what I mean? Because I did it more to help. So when somebody shares the successes back with me, nothing makes me feel like that. And I love making money, but I don't know if even making money makes me feel as good as when you know you truly had impact on somebody or on a community or just on planet Earth.
And just to close this out, because I know we're coming up on time, for designers trying to break in to the field going into 2023, we got new looming problems going around. What do you think more up and coming designers need to do more of, and what should they stay away from?
They should stay away not being designers. They should be proactive with their design career. They shouldn't wait for some magical moment to be anointed as a designer. They should say, if they're willing to put the time in and the dedication and the effort to being a designer, then let's go. Let's get started today. Like, don't even wait till tomorrow. And keep your eyes on trends, make sure you're reading media, make sure you're following designers like you and I on Twitter. I'm always dropping jewels on Twitter. Make sure you're following people on LinkedIn and you're in these communities so that you're getting the information and you know what's going on, and join these organizations, get a mentor, all of these type of different things. Treat yourself like a product. The same way you would want to put any time into anything else, put that time into yourself, and you will receive a ton of results from it, I promise. So figure out your passions as well, like I said before, and start there. Go check out some job boards. If you want some real literal homework, look at your phone, see what app you like, go to their job board, see if you would like to do any of that stuff. And then pull keywords out of there and start researching those keywords and things like that. Because I don't want to just tell people to start learning design tools and things like that. That's not necessarily, I think, the best starting point. There's a lot more fundamental stuff that you need to do before you jump into presenting and prototype and coding or any of that stuff.
And you say you do a lot of mentoring, Fonz. Where can people reach out to you, connect with you?
You can hit me up on LinkedIn, Fonz Morris. You can hit me up on Twitter at Young Fonz. You can hit me up. I don't really use Instagram that much anymore. You can go to my website, Fonz Morris. You can come to one of my talks. If you want to come to one of my talks and you can't get a ticket, let me know. I can try to get you a ticket. I'm here. As they say, I'm outside. If you want to find me, you can find me. And if you reach out to me, I will respond and we will somehow find a way to connect. So just look for me. That's the best way I can say, look for me. I'm here, y'all.
All right. With that, I hope that everybody got a lot of gems that
they did.
Shared.
They did. I just dropped crazy jewels. I just dropped crazy jewels on them.
Yep. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.